From great acts of heroism and courage to nightmarishly evil creatures, the Pokémon moral compass has a massive range. So we decided to dive deep into the lore and see which Pokémon are the most good and which ones are the most evil. And it all started back in Generation 1, so today we're heading back to Kanto and ranking all 151 original Pokémon from good to evil. And as usual, we'll be starting with the most noble Pokémon and working our way down to the most evil. These Pokémon are the good, and we have to start out by awarding the gold medal for most good Pokémon to the Dragonite line, which is basically the superhero squad of the Pokémon world. Starting off as the shy and peaceful Dratini, it evolves into the graceful Dragonair, known for bringing calm to storms. But when your friendly neighborhood Dragonite enters the picture, it's all about heroics. Dragonite is known to rescue people from shipwrecks, as stated in various Pokédex entries from the games, and it's been described as a benevolent and heroic Pokémon patrolling the seas and rescuing those in danger. Dragonite is said to live on a mythical Dragonite Island, where it actually takes those it rescues from shipwrecks, making it both a lifeguard and a tour guide to a hidden paradise. In Pokémon the first movie, Dragonite delivers a message from Mewtwo to Ash and his friends, playing an important role in getting them to the island where the events unfold. In the Orange Islands arc, Dragonite serves as a guardian and protector of the islands, showcasing its loyalty and bravery. And in Pokémon Journeys, Ash's Dragonite repeatedly proves its heroism in battle, protecting Ash and his friends in multiple intense situations. So, to answer your question, do we love Dragonite?
Yes, considering we're in America. I mean, if you don't like
Dragonite.
why don't you get the hell out?
But moving on to Mew, which takes the silver medal of good. Mew is often considered the embodiment of innocence and pure good in the Pokemon world. As the ancestor of all Pokemon, it's said to carry the DNA of every species within it, yet it remains playful, gentle, and curious. Mew avoids conflict and prefers to stay hidden, only revealing itself when absolutely necessary. Despite its immense power, it chooses to live in harmony with nature, making it one of the most morally pure Pokemon. In Pokémon the first movie, Mew acts as a moral counterbalance to Mewtwo, emphasizing peace and playfulness even in the face of conflict. It's basically a flying ball of joy with godlike powers. When the clones in original Pokémon began to fight, Mew intervened, battling Mewtwo to protect both sides. Sparking its way over to the bronze medal of good, we have the Pikachu line. The Pikachu line is a near-perfect example of loyalty, kindness, and selflessness. Pikachu is an empathetic, fiercely protective Pokémon. It forges strong bonds with others, both human and Pokemon alike, and will go to great lengths to defend them. Raichu continues this trend with a calm and friendly demeanor that shows it's a Pokemon at peace with the world. But really, let's focus on Pikachu, as it's the face of the series and one of the purest examples of goodness in the franchise. Across its Pokédex entries and various appearances in the games, anime, and movies, Pikachu is portrayed as loyal, kind-hearted, and selflessly protective. It forms strong bonds with both humans and other Pokemon, demonstrating empathy and a clear sense of right and wrong. Pikachu has been shown time and time again to put itself into harm's way to protect its friends or its trainer. Pikachu's relationship with Ash in the anime is perhaps the most well-known example of its strong moral compass. From the very first episode, Pikachu protects Ash from a flock of Spearow, despite initially disliking him. This moment set the tone for Pikachu's unwavering loyalty. Over countless seasons and movies, Pikachu has been shown to risk its life over and over again, even literally battling legendary Pokemon. But it's not just specifically Ash's Pikachu. There's Sparky, Richie's Pikachu, who's always by his side and showcases bravery and loyalty much like Ash's. Then there's Piccolla's Pikachu from the Alola region. In the Sun and Moon anime, Piccolla is surrounded by Pikachu, all of which show great affection and protection towards their trainer. And then of course there's the classic Pikachu's Goodbye episode, where Ash's Pikachu encounters a group of wild Pikachu living in the forest, and they're all depicted as a close-knit, supportive community, working together to help one another. And they even rescue a fellow Pikachu from a waterfall, displaying their strong bond and heroic nature. Across all forms of media, Pikachu is constantly depicted as a Pokemon that stands up for what's right. Next up, we have Chansey. Chansey is the ultimate healthcare professional of the Pokemon world, known for its unrelenting compassion and dedication to helping others. Always seen with a smile and a healing aid at the ready, Chansey works alongside nurses in the Pokemon centers, tirelessly healing the sick and injured. injured. Whether it's handing out its precious eggs for nutrition or using them to aid in healing, its selflessness is unmatched. And it's clearly a species-specific thing because they work in every Pokemon Center. Next up we have Lapras. Lapras is a gentle and intelligent Pokemon known for Ubering people and other Pokemon across bodies of water free of charge. Often described as kind-hearted, Lapras is peaceful and protective of those in need. It avoids conflict and prefers to help others, making it one of the most morally pure Pokemon out there. Sadly, Lapras has been in danger due to overhunting, but it continues to help people despite this, showcasing its true selflessness. Also, what kind of psychopaths are hunting Lapras? Ash's Lapras frequently transported him and his friends across dangerous waters, and in Pokemon Snap, Lapras helps Professor Oak by allowing the player to photograph it in the wild. And now we get to the Clefable line. Clefairy is often depicted as a gentle, kind-hearted Pokemon connected to the moon and known for its mystical qualities. It's said that Clefairy gathers in peaceful groups to dance under the moonlight, bringing in a sense of harmony to the world around it. Its evolution, Clefable, retains the same peaceful, loving nature, floating around to bring joy and wonder wherever it goes. The famous Moonstone episode of the anime shows Clefairy as a peaceful, enchanting species that dances under the stars. But let's talk about the good boys in the Arcanine line, which is basically the Pokemon world's version of man's best friend. Growlithe is known for its bravery and loyalty, often risking itself to protect its trainer or territory, because sometimes the best hero is just a good boy who breathes fire. When it evolves into Arcanine, it becomes even more regal and heroic, being revered as noble and powerful, even being tagged as a legendary Pokemon in some Pokedex entries. Arcanine is celebrated for its sense of justice and protection, making this line one of the more morally upright in the Pokemon world. Officer Jenny's Growlithe exemplifies this line's strong sense of justice, as it's often seen aiding in law enforcement and protecting others. Next up is the Blastoise line, which is known for its protective and defensive nature. Squirtle is described as brave, using its water abilities to ward off threats while maintaining a playful demeanor. Wartortle evolves into a more battle-hardened form, often standing as a guardian. Pokedex entries describe its scars as marks of wisdom, but it never becomes unnecessarily aggressive. Blastoise, the final form, uses its powerful water cannons for protection, capable of precision attacks to safeguard others without causing excessive harm. These Pokemon are steadfast defenders, always stepping up to shield others, making them noble by nature. Ash's Squirtle is portrayed as a natural leader with a strong sense of justice. It even leads the Squirtle Squad, a group of rogue Squirtles that later become firefighters, showcasing their shift from mischief makers to protectors of their community. On the topic of starters, let's talk about the Venusaur line, which is highly praised in the Pokedex for its symbiotic relationship with nature. Bulbasaur is often depicted as helping plants grow and living peacefully in forests. Ivysaur continues this role, gaining more power from sunlight and further contributing to the environment. Venusaur plays an even bigger part in maintaining ecosystems. Its flower releases soothing scents that calm others, and it can manipulate weather to create rain, benefiting plants and other Pokemon. Basically, if Captain Planet was a Pokemon, he'd be a Venusaur, saving the world one solar beam at a time without the speed up. The Ninetales line is known for its elegance and mystical nature. Vulpix is a gentle fire type, often described as clever and caring with a bond to nature. As it evolves into Ninetales, this line becomes even more majestic and gains a mystical aura. Ninetales is said to be a Pokemon of great wisdom, capable of living for hundreds of years. While it can be vengeful if wronged, it is generally protective and just, bringing a strong sense of morality with a mystical edge. Kangaskhan is basically the Pokemon world's ultimate mom on a mission. Its whole life revolves around protecting its little one, and you do not want to mess with its baby. Generally peaceful, Kangaskhan has a strong sense of nurturing and will go full mama bear if anything threatens its kid. It's all about loyalty and family, making it one of the most protective and caring Pokemon around. Moving on, the Machamp line is all about strength, hard work, and dedication. Machop is naturally hardworking, always training its muscles and preparing to grow stronger. As it evolves into Machoke, its strength is used to help others, often assisting with construction and heavy lifting. Finally, Machamp represents the peak of power, able to lift anything effortlessly. Though incredibly strong, the Machamp line doesn't use its power for harm. Instead, it's a protector, utilizing its strength to aid people and Pokemon, making it the Pokemon Pokemon World's Chad Jimbro with a heart of gold. I mean, one of the coolest recent Pokemon cards even depicts Machamp helping people out. Next up, the Rapidash line is all about speed, loyalty, and elegance. Ponyta starts off as a gentle yet fiery Pokemon known for its determination to grow stronger and faster. When it evolves into Rapidash, it becomes a majestic, blazing steed, moving with incredible grace and speed. While its fiery mane might seem intimidating, Rapidash is known to be kind and loyal, especially to those who gain its trust. It's protective without being aggressive, making it a good-hearted companion. But let's talk about the Eevee line, which is all about adaptability and loyalty. Though we'd say that they all balance out, each evolution brings its own unique flavor of morality. Eevee is a curious, friendly Pokemon, always open to change, but with no malice in its heart. It's naturally good-natured and loyal to its trainer. Jolteon is known to be a bit temperamental and can be prickly, both literally and figuratively. Despite its impulsivity, it is fiercely protective. Vaporeon is calm and peaceful, oftentimes seeking harmony in its environment, and it's said that it prefers to avoid conflict unless absolutely necessary. Flareon is passionate and intense, and also with a fiery temperament. Though aggressive when threatened, it remains loyal and uses its flames defensively. Let's talk about Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, a duo that's all about discipline and martial arts mastery. Hitmonlee is known for its precise and powerful kicks, focusing on efficient strikes and remaining calm under pressure. Hitmonchan, on the other hand, is a determined boxer, relentlessly throwing punches and always ready to defend itself and others. Both Pokemon value honor and fairness in combat, making them equally good. The Marowak line is one of the most emotionally complex in the Pokemon world. Poor little Cubone is known for wearing the skull of its deceased mother, and its grief drives much of its behavior. This makes Cubone more cautious and defensive, but not malicious. When it evolves into Marowak, it becomes stronger and more focused on survival. Cubone's often depicted as lonely and emotionally distant due to its backstory, but it always strives to protect itself and those it trusts. Next up, the Butterfree line is inherently peaceful, embodying the essence of harmlessness and calm. Caterpie is a simple, non-aggressive Pokemon focused on survival with no tendencies towards harmful behavior. As it evolves into Metapod, its only priority is self-preservation and preparation for its final stage. Butterfree is gentle and beneficial to the environment by pollinating plants, making it much like your friendly neighbor who waters your plants. Ash's Butterfree is a prime example of the species' gentle nature. In one of the anime's most emotional moments, it leaves Ash to start a family, showcasing its caring and nurturing side. Next, the Dugong line is peaceful, graceful, and all about living that icy ocean life. Seal spends its time swimming through cold waters, minding its own business and causing no harm. When it evolves into Dugong, it becomes an elegant swimmer and protector of the icy seas. In the anime, Dugong is shown as a helpful, graceful Pokemon, often assisting with water-related tasks and showing loyalty to its trainer. It generally focuses on maintaining harmony in its cold, aquatic environment. The Starmie line is a mysterious and otherworldly duo that's more about self-preservation than conflict. Staryu is peaceful, often spending its time deep underwater, absorbing light through its core. When it evolves into Starmie, it becomes more powerful and capable, but still, it's not aggressive. The line's mysterious nature and connection to the cosmos gives it an air of wisdom and calmness, making it a positive force in the Pokemon world. Now, next up, we have to talk about the chill Pokemon, the Slowbro line. Slowpoke is the definition of chill in the Pokemon world, kinda like the capybara in this universe. It spends its time by the water, fishing with its tail and reacting to life at its own pace. Very, very slowly. It's harmless, mostly oblivious to its surroundings, and causes no intentional harm, just living its chilled out life. Though for this, it does earn the Sloth Sinner Medal. When it evolves into Slowbro, its docile nature remains, although now with a shelter attached to its tail. It's a bit more active in battle. Both are peaceful and good-natured with no real malice.
I didn't realize you were chill like that. Alright, you're good.
Next up, the Wigglytuff line is all about bringing calm and peace, though sometimes Jigglypuff's methods are a bit overbearing, such as the one in the anime that enjoys putting people to sleep and drawing on their faces. Jigglypuff loves to sing, and its song is known to put others to sleep, which it does more for its own satisfaction than to cause actual harm. Though Jigglypuff's obsession to getting others to listen to its singing is a craving for attention and admiration, and it earns our Lust Sinner Medal. When it evolves into Wigglytuff, it gains a more protective protective nature, known for its loyalty and kindness. Moving on to the Dugtrio line, which is nature's little construction crew, digging tunnels and aerating the soil for the greater good. Diglett spends most of its time underground, popping up only to help out, or perhaps just to say hi. When it evolves into Dugtrio, it's like Diglett got a team together to get the job done faster. Maybe not exactly heroes, but they are doing their part for the ecosystem. The Poliwrath line is said to be loyal and courageous. Poliwag starts off as an adorable tadpole, harmless and just trying to stay afloat. Poliwhirl is more of a fighter, and then Poliwrath becomes a muscle-bound amphibian that's all about determination. But we have to talk about Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime may be a quirky, barrier-loving Pokemon, but it's also surprisingly helpful. He helps Ash's mom with a lot of stuff, if you know what I mean. Mr. Mime spends most of its time entertaining or lending a hand, like the ultimate multitasker. Whether it's creating invisible walls or helping out with household chores, it's more a peaceful companion than anything else. Just be ready for its unblinking, creepy gaze while it does everything. Mr. Mime, Ash's mom's favorite house guest. Now we get to Snorlax. Snorlax is the Pokemon equivalent of your friend who's always napping, yet somehow still the life of the party. With a love of sleeping and eating, Snorlax is more about snacks than scrapping. Sure, it occasionally blocks roads like an oversized speed bump, but it's all in the name of rest. Its harmless and relaxed nature keeps it firmly on the good side, unless you wake it up. Snorlax is the obvious candidate for the gluttony Sinner medal, as it eats so much that it sleeps for days afterwards. Snorlax's motto, eat, sleep, repeat. It's living the dream. Let's talk about the Alakazam line, which is shrouded in mystery and psychic power, and with morality shaped by their overwhelming intelligence and ability to manipulate reality. Abra spends most of its time asleep, conserving its psychic energy. It teleports to avoid danger, showing a non-confrontational nature. Kadabra, once awakened, wields significant psychic power, but with a more focused and defensive purpose. Not to harm, but to protect itself. Alakazam is on another level of intelligence, capable of immense psychic feats, but it doesn't use its powers maliciously. Its extreme intellect actually makes it calm and peaceful, understanding the consequences of its abilities. Though this line is morally good and focused on self-preservation and intellect, some of Kadabra's lore hints at more chaotic origins. A very unsettling backstory. According to certain Pokedex entries, Kadabra's existence is tied to a mysterious transformation. One entry claims that a boy with psychic powers awoke one morning to find himself transformed into a Kadabra, hinting at a possible human-to-Pokemon transformation. Though this is probably just a myth, we can't really hold this against Kadabra, regardless of whether it's true. Next up, we're ranking the entire Nidoran line, both the male and the female version, as both genders balance each other out like a Pokemon version of yin and yang. Nidoking is aggressive and territorial, using brute force to protect its domain, often to a destructive extent. Nidoqueen, however, is more nurturing, focusing on protecting her family and territory without unnecessary violence. Nidoking brings the muscle, but Nidoqueen brings the heart. A perfect balance of force and nurture when raising and protecting their family. Next, Electabuzz is like a living lightning bolt. Known for its love of thunderstorms and its electrifying temper, it can be a bit impulsive. While it's not evil, its unpredictable nature and tendency to fry electronics can cause some chaos. That said, Electabuzz is known to help people, particularly in power plants and industrial areas. Due to its affinity for electricity, Electabuzz is sometimes used to generate power or manage electrical surges, and it's often depicted as working alongside humans to harness its power for useful purposes. And in some cases, it even helps prevent blackouts by absorbing excess electricity from thunderstorms. The Sandslash line is known best for its survival instincts. Sandshrew prefers to avoid danger, curling up into a protective ball when threatened, and making it more of a passive creature than an aggressor. Sandslash, however, is a bit more battle-ready, using its claws to defend its territory. They're both just desert survivalists, built tough, but mostly minding their own business unless you step on their turf. The Kingdra line is all about grace and adaptability. Horsey is a peaceful little sea Pokemon content to drift through the water, avoiding conflict whenever possible. Seadra becomes more of a threat, using its spiny body to protect itself, but it doesn't seek out trouble. The Seaking line is up next. Goldeen is often referred to as the Water Queen due to its beauty and graceful movements, rarely engaging in conflict unless necessary. When it evolves into Seaking, it gains more power and becomes a bit more territorial, but remains relatively peaceful, just defending its area without seeking fights. Tangela is a bit of a mystery wrapped in vines, but I suppose one thing is for sure, this Pokemon is more about defense than aggression. Known for its tangle of vines that can whip and ensnare opponents, it uses its powers most mostly to protect itself and its habitat. Now, Lickitung is more quirky than malicious, known for using that gigantic tongue for everything from battling to curiosity-driven licks. Its behavior is mostly innocent, though that massive tongue can get into trouble. Its tendency to taste test everything isn't inherently harmful, but it's not always the most considerate behavior either, especially since it can paralyze someone with its tongue. The Kingler line is really all about keeping things simple, scuttling, snipping, and living the beach life. Krabby is mostly peaceful, but it can get aggressive if its space is invaded. When it evolves into Kingler, its power increases, but it still maintains a balance between defense and offense. The Pidgeot line is a classic bird Pokemon family known for being largely peaceful and non-confrontational. Pidgey is a cute, small little bird that avoids conflict, flying away from danger rather than seeking it out. It's described as calm and friendly, often found minding its own business in the wild. As it evolves into Pidgeotto and Pidgeot, its size and strength increase, but the line still retains a protective nature, with Pidgeot often guarding its territory. Moving on to the Vileplume line, starting with Oddish, the first of nature's adorable little garden trio. Oddish spends its time rooting in the soil, living a peaceful, planty life. Things get a little messier when it evolves into Gloom, since it may look cute, but it stinks. Thankfully, that stink is all in the name of defense and not mischief. Once evolved, Vileplume is armed with a poisonous pollen. Next up, despite Onyx's intimidating appearance, it's often depicted as a protector of its environment, burrowing through the earth to create tunnels and passageways. Though it is known to be territorial, but rarely acts out of malice. Its loyalty to its trainers and its natural connection to the earth makes for a positive force, as demonstrated by Brock's Onyx. In our next spot, the Golem line is tough and hardworking. Geodude is often seen quietly blending in with rocks, only becoming aggressive if provoked. Graveler becomes more adventurous, rolling down mountainsides, though it still doesn't seek trouble unless threatened. Golem, with its hard rock exterior and immense strength, can be both defensive and destructive. Now let's talk about a very weird Pokemon, Farfetch'd. Farfetch'd is really just a quirky Pokemon, often seen carrying a leek, which it uses for both battle and utility. It's not inherently aggressive, but it can be if threatened. Farfetch'd is typically more concerned with survival, as it was once overhunted in the wild, making it cautious and self-protective. And while occasionally mischievous, it generally means no harm. At the end of the day, Farfetch'd is really just an odd duck of a Pokemon. And with our good Pokemon wrapped up, we now move into more neutral territory to explore the Pokemon that fall in the gray area. And we finally get to the Charizard line. And it starts off innocently enough with Charmander, a loyal, cute, well-meaning Pokemon. It's noted in the Pokedex that Charmander's flame burns brighter when it's happy and dims when it's sad, indicating its strong emotional connection to its surroundings. But once it evolves, things heat up as Charmander goes through its angsty teenager and hot topic phase. Charmeleon is known to be extremely aggressive, enjoying battles and actively seeking out fights. Its Pokedex entries describe it as so fierce that it swings its tail to raise the temperature around it. And then comes Charizard, the apex of the line. Charizard's aggression takes a different form. It's proud and only respects other strong opponents, but this pride can sometimes lead to it wreaking havoc on weaker foes. Charizard easily earns the Pride Sinner Medal as it refuses to listen to a trainer it deems unworthy and is fiercely independent, oftentimes to a fault. Charizard is prone to unintentional destruction due to its immense power, especially when angered. Though despite its wild streak, Charizard is known to be heroic when the situation calls for it, displaying loyalty towards trainers that it actually respects. Next, the Golduck line is like that one friend who's confused 90% of the time but somehow manages to stumble into success. Psyduck spends its life clutching its head, accidentally unleashing psychic chaos thanks to its perpetual headaches. It's not evil, just painfully confused. But when it finally evolves into Golduck, it trades in its confusion for a sleek, cool demeanor. Tauros is a wild, reckless, and aggressive Pokemon. Known for its fierce temper and desire to fight, it uses its immense power to defend its territory and prove its strength. Though in rural or farm settings, Tauros can be helpful for heavy labor, such as plowing fields or transporting goods. The Executor line is an odd bunch, with Execute being more defenseless than dangerous, focusing on group survival. That said, things get very weird when it evolves into Executor, a towering psychic tree that can use its powers for both defense and confusion. Although not outright malicious, Executor's nature is quite unpredictable. Porygon is a digital Pokemon, more code than creature, which makes it morally neutral. It's all about how it's used. Porygon can navigate cyberspace like a pro, helping with tech tasks, but it has no real moral compass of its own. It's more just a virtual tool for trainers, and it kinda just minds its own business unless you're watching that episode of the anime. Moving on, Ditto is as morally flexible as its shape-shifting abilities. It can transform into any Pokemon it sees, and although it doesn't cause too much trouble, unless you consider mild confusion as mischief, Ditto doesn't have a particular agenda and simply mimics what's around it, though its desire to copy everybody does earn Ditto the Envy Sinner Medal. The Amistar line is an ancient one, with both Ammonite and Amistar being resurrected fossils. Ammonite is peaceful and curious, simply trying to survive in the modern world, spending its time scuttling through the ocean and avoiding conflict. Amistar, however, takes a darker turn, becoming a predator that uses its sharp tentacles to catch prey. The Kabuto line, much like the Ammonite line, is ancient and resurrected from fossils. Kabuto is a small, timid creature, more interested in hiding and surviving than fighting. However, once it evolves into Kabutops, things take a sharp turn as it becomes a fierce predator, using its scythe-like arms to hunt prey with precision. Now we get to the legendary birds, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. They are powerful but temperamental forces of nature, each controlling ice, electricity, and fire. According to Pokédex entries, Articuno represents calm and balance. It avoids unnecessary conflict and is often seen as a guardian of cold, remote areas. That said, its neutrality stems from its role as a force of nature, acting when its territory is threatened. Zapdos is more volatile, as it thrives in thunderstorms and can be unpredictable. It's not malicious, but tends to cause chaos, especially in stormy weather. The fiery Moltres embodies both destruction and rebirth. Its aggressive nature and love for conflict gives it a more chaotic edge. Moltres is often seen unleashing its fiery power when provoked, making it a neutral force that can lean towards destruction. Now, originally, we considered ranking them all separately, with Articuno being the most good. However, their rivalry and constant clashes often lead to chaos, as we see in Pokémon the Movie 2000. Their inability to cooperate leads to environmental disasters and forces Lugia to intervene. While each bird is tied to natural forces, their unchecked power and territorial conflicts keep them firmly in the gray area. Scyther is fast, precise, and always ready for a fight, and although it doesn't necessarily mean harm, with those sharp blades, it's hard to avoid. And this Pokémon is more concerned with proving its strength than playing nice. Next up is the Magneton line. Magnemite and Magneton tend to be neutral, drawn to areas with strong electromagnetic fields and sometimes causing unintentional disruptions. They're not malicious, but their presence can cause power outages or interference with technology. Onto the Rhydon line. Rhyhorn is known for charging headfirst into anything, often without thinking. While its power is impressive, the lack of control can make it dangerous to both friend and foe alike. When it evolves into Rhydon, it becomes more powerful and slightly more focused, though still prone to charging ahead. The Dodrio line is all about speed and endurance, but when it comes to morality, we have to rank them more neutral than anything. Doduo spends most of its time running around, while Dodrio evolves into a faster, more aggressive version with 3 heads, each with a mind of its own. Pinsir is a fierce and aggressive bug-type Pokemon known for using its massive pincers to crush its opponents. Its natural habitat is in dense forests where it's territorial and won't hesitate to attack threats. And according to Pokédex entries, it is known to be aggressive and brutish. Moving on to the Pokemon Jinx. Jinx is a bit of an enigma, known for its psychic powers, odd dances, and ice-cold abilities. It's not evil, but Jinx has a strange and somewhat unsettling aura, often using its powers to manipulate others with its hypnotic moves. While it doesn't cause direct harm, its use of mind games and unpredictability place it firmly in the gray area. Our next spot goes to Magmar, a literal hothead known for its fiery nature and living in volcanic areas. It has a reputation for being aggressive, using its flames to defend itself and its territory. While not evil, Magmar's tendency to act impulsively with its flames can cause a bit of destruction. Next, we have the very annoying Raticate line. Rattata is described as cautious, constantly on the lookout for danger, and focused primarily on finding food and defending itself. When it evolves into Raticate, it becomes more aggressive and territorial, often described as a Pokemon that will use its sharp fangs to fend off threats. Raticate is prone to confrontational behavior, making it more morally neutral than anything else. But in Rattata's defense, you'd be pretty pissed off too if nearly every trainer smoked about 200 of your species on his way to Pewter City. Now, the Victory Bell line is a mix of of gentle and predatory behavior. Bellsprout is mostly peaceful, using its roots to absorb nutrients and growing without much harm to others. However, as it evolves into Weeping Bell and Victory Bell, things get a bit darker. Victory Bell is known for its carnivorous nature, trapping prey in its large mouth and dissolving them with acid while they're still alive. Another bird Pokemon, the Fearow line, is known for its aggressive and territorial behavior. Spearow will defend its space, but it's simply trying to protect itself. But as it evolves into Fearow, the territorial nature grows stronger, with Fearow often chasing intruders out of its own domain. Though the Spearow line really is just a grumpy bird that wants some peace and quiet, and doesn't want anyone to trespass in their airspace. Moving on to the Cloyster line. Shelder spends its time clamped into rocks or swimming alongside the ocean floor, only using its defensive shell when threatened. When it evolves into Cloyster, it becomes more aggressive, capable of using its powerful shell and spikes for protection and attack. And while Cloyster's defenses are formidable, it isn't known for any sort of malevolence. The Venomoth line is another Pokemon more about survival than anything else. Venonat uses its large eyes and antenna to sense danger and avoid conflict. However, when it evolves into Venomoth, things get a bit more aggressive, with Venomoth releasing toxic scales during flight. But let's talk about the Meowth and Persian line. As a species, Meowth is opportunistic and self-serving, often scavenging or seeking out shiny objects. It's known to be clever, but more mischievous than malicious, making it a Pokemon that is more amoral than anything else. Though it definitely earns the Greed Medal for its obsession with coins. When it evolves into Persian, it becomes more territorial and predatory, displaying pride and cunning behavior. Persian is often described as luxurious, reflecting its association with wealth and power. But its protective nature shows it's not outright evil, just aloof and self-focused. While Team Rocket's Meowth is the most famous example of this line, Persian is often depicted as elegant but cold, like Giovanni's Persian. And given these Pokemon are associated with Team Rocket, we have to dock the line some morality points. Now we get to the Pokemon that's totally not annoying, and that we definitely love running into in caves, the Zubat and Golbat line. Zubat and Golbat are often depicted as swarming in caves, feeding on the blood of other Pokemon and humans. While this behavior is instinctual, it's still predatory, which lands them in the gray area, but they're also a favorite of Team Rocket, which also says a lot about these little bloodsuckers. Finally, with the gray area wrapped up, we now get to the dark side. These Pokemon are the bad and the evil. And slithering into our next spot is the Arbok line. This line is sneaky and predatory. Ekans primarily uses its abilities to silently stalk prey, wrapping around its target with little remorse. Arbok takes this a step further, becoming a more intimidating force. Its Pokedex entries detail how it strikes fear with the intimidating patterns on its hood, and it will attack fiercely. Despite being part of Team Rocket's mischief, Jesse's Arbok is fiercely loyal to Jesse. Still, this is another Pokemon common in the Team Rocket circle. Moving on to the Muck line. This line of Pokemon is quite literally toxic. Grimer is born from pollution and sludge, absorbing filth and spreading toxic waste wherever it goes, making this Pokemon sort of a byproduct of pollution itself. As it evolves into Muck, its pollution becomes more dangerous, capable of contaminating entire bodies of water and killing plant life. Its very existence is harmful to the environment, landing it in the bad to evil section. The Electrode line is best known for its unpredictability, and not in a fun way. Voltorb and Electrode are notorious for self-destructing when startled or touched, making them ticking time bombs in the Pokemon world. While their explosive nature is a defense mechanism, the collateral damage they cause makes them morally questionable. I mean, even in the real world, most armies have outlawed landmines. Next, the Primeape line isn't just fueled by rage, it's practically sponsored by it. Mankey can go from 0 to Furious Tantrum in 2 seconds flat. Mankey is kind of an a-hole and likes teasing and playing tricks before it turns to anger and violence. And then once it evolves into Primeape, it's like someone cranked up the fury to 11. Ash's Primeape was a great example. It was honestly a complete psychopath. Primeape is famous for flying into blind rages, punching anything unlucky enough to be in its path. Aerodactyl is the definition of prehistoric terror, swooping down with razor-sharp fangs and a love for wrecking anything in its path. Resurrected from a fossil, Aerodactyl retains its prehistoric instincts, which lean towards violence and domination. Its predatory nature and love for combat land it firmly in the darker territory. The Wheezing line is another Team Rocket favorite and infamous for its toxic nature and environmental harm. Coughing gleefully releases gases that can cause significant damage, and Wheezing takes it even further by producing more potent fumes. As a common choice for Team Rocket, coughing is often used in criminal activities, used to spread poison gas during heists and battles. Its frequent association with criminal behavior and harmful pollution gives this line a solid spot in the bad to evil section. Our next Pokemon is the Tentacruel line, which is known for being aggressive and dangerous, especially in large numbers. Tentacruel is fairly harmless by itself, drifting in the water and using its stingers defensively. But when it evolves into Tentacruel, things get a lot darker. Tentacruel is territorial and aggressive, often using its tentacles to attack and ensnare prey. And in the anime, Tentacruel is famously shown wreaking havoc on cities when provoked, using its powerful tentacles to cause widespread damage. Though in the species' defense, this one was only so big because Team Rocket dumped toxic waste in their water. But let's talk about the Beedrill line. This one takes a sharp turn from harmless bug to aggressive insect warrior. Weedle is a defensive little critter using its poison to protect itself from predators. However, it's when it evolves from Kakuna into Beedrill that the line's morality shifts. Simply put, Beedrill is an a-hole. Beedrill is highly territorial and known for its aggressive swarming attacks. Its Pokédex entries often describe it as hostile and prone to attacking anyone who dares come near it. In the anime, Beedrill is consistently portrayed as aggressive and territorial. Ash and his friends frequently run into wild Beedrill swarms that chase them away, highlighting their hostile nature and making them a recurring threat in forests.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast!
But we have to talk about the rage-filled Gyarados line, which is really a story of extremes. Magikarp is harmless, known for being weak and barely able to defend itself. It just flops around aimlessly, causing no harm and simply trying to survive. But once it evolves into Gyarados, things take a very dark turn fast. Gyarados is infamous for its uncontrollable rage, capable of destroying cities in fits of anger, which easily earns it the Wrath Center Medal. Its power, violence, and aggression make it incredibly dangerous, although it is driven a bit more by fury than pure malice. Onto a very creepy Pokemon line, the Parasect line, which goes from cute little bug to something nightmarishly horrible. Paras starts off innocently enough, munching away to grow the mushrooms on its back, but when it evolves into Parasect, things get disturbing. The parasitic fungus takes over, like The Last of Us, turning Parasect into a zombie on autopilot. That whole body snatcher thing lands it firmly in the darker part of our morality spectrum. And in all seriousness, Paras may have one of the most hellish existences in all of Pokemon. So we actually feel for the little guy before it's turned into the Walking Dead. But taking home the bronze medal of evil is Mewtwo. Mewtwo is one of the more complex Pokemon when it comes to morality. Mewtwo was created in a lab, so it naturally has some genetic baggage. Born from the DNA of Mew, Mewtwo's first instinct was to destroy the lab that created it. In Mewtwo Strikes Back, it takes its frustration out on humanity, seeking power and revenge. With a philosophy rooted in might makes right, Mewtwo's morality is driven by a mixture of existential crisis and pure rage. Mewtwo's actions, destroying the lab that created it, trying to dominate both humans and Pokemon, are ruthless. That said, its internal struggle to find meaning and purpose adds layer to its morality. That said, Mewtwo does show signs of self-reflection later on, hinting at a more complex understanding of right and wrong. Mewtwo eventually realizes that it was not doomed to be a mere tool of destruction, but could carve out its own path. Its actions are evil, however, its deeper motivations revolve around a sense of betrayal, having been created as a weapon. As the movie progresses, Mewtwo begins to question whether it's truly bound to the purpose its creators intended, ultimately choosing to leave and seek its own way. Our silver medal of evil has to go to the Hypno line. Drowsy eats dreams, which is concerning behavior to say the least, especially when it targets children. But things get extremely dark with Hypno, which has been known to hypnotize and abduct people, with Pokédex entries and lore suggesting children are routinely abducted and taken to God knows where. Basically, they should set up a string operation with Chris Hansen to get this menace off the streets. In the anime episode Hypno's Nap Time, Hypno was causing children to go missing, thinking they were Pokemon. These psychic powers are used manipulatively, and the predatory nature of both Drowsy and Hypno puts them squarely in the evil category. And finally, the gold medal of evil has to go to the Gengar line, which is about as spooky and sinister as it gets. Ghastly starts by sneaking into places and suffocating victims with its gas, so not a good start. Haunter elevates the threat, enjoying scaring people, paralyzing them with its infamous lick, and hovering eerily in the shadows. In fact, sometimes those licks result in violent convulsions until its victim straight up dies. But Gengar is the true malevolent force. Its Pokédex entries reveals that it revels in causing nightmares and thrives on the fear it instills. Gengar takes joy in stalking its targets and then draining their life energy, marking it as one of the most dangerous and evil Pokemon around. Gengar is quite literally described as being a sadist in the Pokemon world. And just to take things to another level, Gigantamax Gengar takes things to terrifying new heights. In this form, Gengar becomes a massive ghostly entity with a gaping mouth that resembles a portal to the afterlife. Its Pokédex entry states that it can pull anything into the other side, where the atmosphere is said to be chilling and ominous. This Gigantamax form embodies Gengar's sinister nature, amplifying its ability to haunt and consume its victims in a truly horrifying way. Simply put, Gengar doesn't just hide in the shadows, he's the reason you fear them.